Well, here we are. It's been a couple of days since I've done an episode. Here's my new knob stick I've been working on. Hawthorn, shaved, sanded down, treated with many different essential oils to heighten its vibration. And I've got some charcoal and something called black salt, which is a magical salt. It's not just salt, it's many other things, but I'll speak about it later. Rubbed into the grain, and this is the first knob stick I've ever made. I tried to make one before, but it ended up a bit too fat, so I turned it into a shillelagh. I found myself a bit of a wind trap today, as it's such a windy day, and I have a sock quadrupled over the end of the phone. And you'll see how that is. Like I said, I can't really remember what I was speaking about in the last episode. I'm sure I would have been slightly heated. But I have a rough idea of what I wish to speak about today. So, story time again. Another chapter out of Tale of My Life. Like I said before, I grew up in the south of France, and I grew up until the age of 8.5 with my dad and my mum, and we lived pretty well. My dad was health fanatic. I mean, I wasn't allowed sweets as a kid. No sweets. No McDonald's, no sweets, no Coca-Cola. I mean, my dad was he was like the pioneer of being against all that. Yeah? I got brown rice, tasted like Twix, and minestrone soup, that once you put Parmesan on it, looks and smells like sick. Especially to a young lad who was as sensitive as I was. Still am. I do what I do. And liver and bacon, bleh. Nasty. I even had sweet and sour liver once. I sat at the table with my brother and my nephew, and we refused to have any. And they were like, well, you can be there all night then. So we literally got out a pack of cards and started playing cards as a kid. And when I made, we weren't touching that liver and bacon, sweet and sour nastiness. Ugh. So, just to let you guys know, I grew up with very healthy food, and very strict, very strict. I remember I went to a birthday party once, and there was a party bag. Oh God. And I come home with this party bag, I'm like so happy. I get a slice of cake, and I get the different sweets and stuff that are in the party bag. Oh my God. My dad went through it. I remember to this day. He went through it, he took everything out. I think I was allowed the birthday cake by little bits at a time. You know, so it didn't ruin my soul. Turns out he was on the money. He was absolutely correct. A bit too strict, maybe. You know, and you know, I had treats. You know, I'd pull over at the petrol station occasionally and buy me and my brother a Kit Kat. You know. What are those sweets that are like seashells? I can't remember the name of them now. They're very well known. And back then they were maybe less well known, less commercial. I can't remember the name of them, but they're very famous. They're every one of them is shaped of a seashell. I remember getting some of them for my birthday. And as I got older, there was a tin in the cupboard that had some homemade cakes, like bread pudding occasionally, or some like homemade biscuits and stuff. But everything would have been no chemicals, no anything. But it turns out my dad was on the money. He was right all along. And he suffered a lot of abuse from other people. And I know now, having my own children and what I've gone through, which little bits at a time, when it's story time again, I will be letting you guys know. It would have broken his heart to deprive me of all those. And he knew that when he was gone, that I would understand. And it would pay off later on in life. He didn't know the tragedies we'd all go through and the trials and tribulations we'd all have to endure. But it didn't make a difference. He pushed on until the very end. And every single person that had something to say, he ignored, and he just pushed on, and he cracked on. And he offered explanation to me. Probably a little bit too young to understand, but still. You know, when you're a kid, something's unfair and you cry about it. That's that. What can you really do about it? I remember once someone had left a bottle of Coca-Cola around, and I snuck down as a kid, and well, I was a kid. I snuck down in the morning and I had a few swigs out of it. And I looked at my teeth in the mirror and I noticed they'd instantly started to go a different colour, and I'm panicking, trying to brush my teeth so they go white again, thinking that someone would know I had some of the Coca-Cola, because my dad would bang on completely and utterly how it rots your teeth. And he was right all along. So when I said before that we went down to a seaside town after my parents split up, and you know, I grew up by myself really. You know, my mum was there, but she'd gone for a very, very painful life, and obviously a painful life with my dad. And, you know, when she got down to where we was in the seaside town, she was just happy to fit in with people, do what they did. She just wanted a life, and bless her, she just wanted a life she didn't know any different. So from when I was living with my dad, when we was all together, we lived in a cul-de-sac on a close, and I wasn't allowed past the lamppost. I could play anywhere, but I wasn't allowed past the lamppost. And all of a sudden, I'm down on a coast and I'm just allowed out. You know, had to be back by 6, go out. You know, didn't even know how to get home. Rummaged all through the town. Used to call it raiding the town. But when I first got down there, I'm just a kid walking around. So I'm coming back at 10 and 11, and the police called out, and so on and so forth, and I'm getting a bollocking from the police and a bollocking from my mum, and I didn't even know how to get home. It was instinct that I did get home. Literally, genuine instinct. And my brother was allowed to spend his money in a very, very, very cheap shop on very, very, very cheap sweets. And the cheaper the better, because he could get more of them, because we was deprived of sweets. We weren't allowed sweets. So all of a sudden he can have a whole carrier bag full of sweets. Now he's got health problems. And I was the same. I've got a sweet tooth to this day. But where I went back and lived with my dad, I learnt more lessons and more, I saw more and I learnt more. And he was very, very tough on me. But I would still find myself going into the shop, and for me it was about value. You know, I've got this much money and I want to get as much sweet things as possible, but I wasn't as over the top as my brother was. But I mean, I'm not kind of like streetwise. I would use hacks. I would find these hacks, like I can get this giant brick of marzipan and it's cost me £1 something. Back then, probably cheaper. And that leaves me enough money to buy a pack of cigarettes. You know, it's just how it was. I was waiting outside shops, asking people to buy me cigarettes from the age of 9. You know, blazing on a spliff when I was 11. By the time I'm 12, 13, I smoked joints this big, walking down the street like a gangster. It's just what it was. For me, it was normal. Everyone else was shocked. And the more it shocked them, the more it was, I don't know, I feel like I fit in, even though I was truly not fitting in. And now I don't ever want to fit in. It disgusts me, really. So I always knew, although you can forget. I grew up in the south of France, and I remember the smells that we get down there, so different, so lovely. And you can forget, you can think that this is just it, so those memories are good memories, but you don't want to have those memories because it interferes with their day-to-day survival and struggle in a ghetto. You need to be in survival mode. So you take in new things, you need to learn new things. I remember being about 10, and I got no idea how to fit in. I'm getting beaten up all the time. I've got to try and fit in with the kids somehow. Don't know how. And they're all ghetto kids. And I remember my mum asking me, I'll get you a chocolate bar at the shop, what do you want? And I scanned the shelves. And I went, can I have a king-size Twix? She went, yeah, there you go. I don't like Twix. I do now, I force myself to like them. I didn't like them. They make the back of my mouth go dry, but it was a gold. It was a gold wrapper. Yeah, all the kids have got gold. They've got gold rings, earrings, sovereign rings. So I had to have this chocolate bar because it's gold, and it's bigger than all the other chocolate bars. That was my 10-year-old self trying to fit in for the ghetto. Kind of sad, really. And then, many years later, I'm walking down the seafront, and I don't know how it happened. I don't know, to this day, I don't know how it managed to come across the sea. There must have been a massive, massive heat wave, gust of wind coming across the sea, because it blew across the channel the smell of pine forests. And that would have come down from North Spain, south of France. And I hadn't smelt that smell since I used to go to school down there. It would have been some nigh on 10 years prior. And all these memories, they flooded back. And I sat down on a bench and all these tears welled up, and I suddenly remembered it was subconscious and it was soulful. I remembered that I had a different life. That this wasn't it. Smells are very, very important. And that started something in me. That started something, a way of trying to... It was that wanted me to get out of the ghetto and make a better life. It was that memory of how it was when I was younger, when we used to go down the south of France. And that's life, that's real life. That's how life should be. And little bits at a time, I did what I could. And I didn't live then how I live now. For example, I've just gone and foraged some free-cornered garlic and cut myself down a knobstick, sporting some nice brown leather shoes and a woolly cardigan and waistcoat that got out of an Oxfam shop. And I'm surrounded with this sticky grass, also known as sticky willy. You can, this time of year in the early spring, you can take just the heads off, and they're everywhere, it's everywhere. Take just the heads off, go and give them a wash, put them in a frying pan. They come up really nice with any meat or a soup. And also when the stinging nettles are young, you can get a glove and pinch the tops of the stinging nettles off. And I see quite a few dandelions as well, so I'm going to have a bunch of those. Just make sure there's no slugs. Always check for slugs, okay? You can wash the residue off, but you do not want to eat a slug. That can kill you. So I wasn't always as free as I am now. I don't worry about running out of money. I worry about losing my penknife. And, you know, that's that. But some of the changes I made and some of the observations I made when I used to smoke. I went for a shower, and I used to love the Lynx Brazilian fire mud. And when Poundland opened, you get a pot of that for £1. Man, I'd go in there and spend £7-8. Me thinking that's me. I've got a bit of power behind me now. I've got like 7 bottles of that lined up. It's good for my ego. This is who I am. I feel great for this. Talk about the ego on another episode. Don't get rid of your ego. Just make sure it doesn't brainwash you. So, scrubbing with my Brazilian fire mud. I used to love that stuff. Got little beads in it, you know. Defoliate the skin or whatever. And whilst I was having my shower, I suddenly realised, I wonder what's actually in this. Let's have a read of it. And I couldn't recognise any name of any chemical that's in it. Couldn't even barely pronounce it. But I recognised the BENZ, benzene, benzenotide, blah, 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 blah. And some of them it was like a chemical name with the benzene in between and then the rest of the chemical. No, loads of them. Loads of these different. And then I come downstairs and I treated myself to 10 B&H Gold. Because back in my day, B&H Gold was the shit. And as I picked up the packet, it said, warning, smoke contains benzene. And instantly my mind went, well, if it's dangerous in the smoke, it must be dangerous in the shower gel. And not only do you rub it onto your skin, but it turns into steam. And you breathe that steam in, and that'll have the benzene in it. Oh, I went. Eye-opener. My mind went ding. I was self-conscious. I thought I had a free thought. Quite a few of them, in fact, because my dad used to bang on about the fact I don't think. I need to use my brain. You don't use your brain. Then he would teach me how to use my brain and how to think. Fucking clever man, my dad. And between now and then, I realised that the skin breathes. I spoke about this on a previous episode. The skin actually breathes. Your skin is the biggest organ of your whole body. And your liver and the state of your liver is the state of your skin. If you've got bad liver, you've got bad skin, bad liver. So any ladies out there listening and any men that are skin sensitive, skin conscious, any cream you've ever put on your face, except maybe coconut cream, shea butter maybe, ain't gonna do jack shit. And clean out your liver. Clean out your liver. Stop drinking, stop smoking, stop eating all the sugary foods and crap and chemicals, and detox, and you watch yourself go back 10 years. Clean out your liver. You have a clean liver, your skin literally gets younger. Literally will get younger, I kid you not. So the skin breathes. If you get some wood stain and chuck some wood stain on someone, on their skin, it's going to stay there because it gets into the skin, it stains. And the reason coconut oil is good for you is it goes into the skin. This hat was really dried out. In fact, you could actually check it from some other episodes that I've worn this hat. You'll notice it's a lighter shade of brown. Well, it was getting a bit dried out. So I've given it some coconut oil and it rejuvenates it. In fact, just feeling it, it's so soft and lovely now, it was almost crunchy. So all my other brown leather implements as I've got at home, I put some coconut oil on it. And this stick, on top of all the different oils I've put on, I've also put on coconut oil. And it just sucks straight into it. Skin is no different. So now think of all those chemicals you're rubbing into yourself, thinking, oh, I'm fashionable, or oh, what would anyone think? I need to be hygienic, you know, shame, remember that one. Yeah? All dirt is soluble in warm water. That's all you need. I used to scrub and wash with coffee grinds. And sometimes I still do when I like homesteading, reusing and using, you know. And when you do this, you replace something that's poisonous, bad for you, making another man rich whilst dumbing you down. You wouldn't, it says like, if you get any shampoo or conditioner, shower gel in your eye, rinse immediately with plenty of water. You know? But what about if you get it into your skin? You wouldn't swallow a spoonful of it, so what if you get it into your skin? What would that do? It doesn't say that, your skin breathes, so they all know it. I used to get this bar of soap about this big, made of olive oil. Right? Massive bar of soap like this, made of olive oil. And I would get a little bit of this, and create a lather, and then sprinkle some used coffee grinds into it. And scrub my face and my body with these coffee grinds and this soap. And afterwards, gets rid of all the dead skin. And then the coffee grinds puts minerals back into your skin. And the soap's made of olive oil. Very, very good for you. And I said before about when you brush your teeth, I brush my teeth with coconut oil mixed with some turmeric, a bit of ground cloves, some sterilised ground up eggshell. Excuse me. Now if you used to brush your teeth with cocaine, which I highly don't advise you do, you would get high. Because the cocaine goes into your gums, and within literally seconds that's in your brain, and you know you've got cocaine messing around in your brain. But what the fuck do you think happens when you brush your teeth with that big lather full of chemicals and hydrofluorosilicic acid? What do you think happens? Where do you think that stuff goes when you brush your teeth for so many minutes, they've said, you know? Come on. Gets into your brain. All those chemicals go straight through your gum into your brain. Now I was lucky enough to not feel I was worth much for a lot of my life, and I didn't brush my teeth for many years, just felt worthless. And my dad told me always do for family, so I put everybody first instead of myself until I was in absolute pathetic state. And even then I carried on for family, getting taken the crap out of and ridiculed, used and gossiped about. And they wouldn't have stopped, it would have been relentless. They would never ever have stopped. Like a runt, they will peck at it until it's gone. So luckily there ain't too much fluoride running around in my brain. And I've detoxed many times since then. And now I know I am what I eat, so I eat as much wild forage as possible. So probably about 20 to 30% of what I eat is non-organic and might have a few chemicals in. And I'm doing my best, you know. But what I wish to do is give back and tell people and express the journey I've been on and how I've strived and survived, and that you can do it, you can do these things. And each episode that goes by, and every time I speak, I wish to ramble on and try and link, you know, it was a lot easier when I smoked weed, I must admit. When I was outside all the time, I sucked more oxygen, so I suppose my brain was running better. But also, I know that too much information at one time is not good for the brain. So I'm also trying to release little bits of information at a time, and spread this out over a longer period of time. So the skin briefs, the gums absorb rapidly. Oh, red kite, isn't that lovely? As in bird of prey. And you're all under a spell, because everything is magic. The words I'm saying now is my magic, trying to unbreak people from said spell. Magic is alchemy. One form of magic is alchemy. We breathe in oxygen, we breathe out CO2, the plants breathe in CO2 and breathe out oxygen. Even the plants that do alchemy, because everything is magic. And the old alchemy practitioners, so I'm just going to gaze at this. There's a red kite or a kestrel hovering whilst I speak. The old alchemical masters have gone, and they've gone into hiding. And now we have the chemist, the alchemist, the chemist, the alchemist on the corner. Always gone for something. Sweeps down, got himself a little mouse. And rather than selling you natural cures, you are sold things that 9 times out of 10 are made from petroleum and oil, and the chemicals that come from refining said petroleum and oil. Before this, most of our medicine, ironically, came from either cannabis, cocaine, or opium. My mum used to have a little tin of cough pastils. It said, warning, these throat pastils contain cocaine. And if it wasn't laudanum or some sort of opiate that was put into your painkillers, it was an ointment or a tincture made from cannabis. You know, that was the majority of, you know, all alcohol based as well. It was our medicines. And then when the Rockefellers and DuPont and it was Henry Ford as well, they're like a race to create the automobile, the car. See, Henry Ford's car was made from hemp. Back then you had to grow hemp. If you had a certain amount of land and you didn't grow hemp, you'd go to prison. And you could pay your taxes in hemp. All the ropes of the ships and the sails all come from hemp. The Bible's made from hemp. And the majority of our medicine came from hemp. In fact, they've now made a hemp house. Everything in the house is made of hemp, and the bricks made of hemp actually absorb radioactive chemicals and pollution out of the air. It's fireproof, you know, cost effective. When you grow hemp, it doesn't rape the land of nutrition. And his car, the Henry Ford Model 1, Model T Ford or whatever it was, that was actually made from hemp, and it ran on a fuel made from hemp called hempanol. And the Rockefellers were refining oil. Jazz was being very, very heavily influenced. It was influenced by cannabis, reefer smoking. And the good black people were creating a very good name for themselves, being that they're free and they were held back and let go. All of a sudden they go far real quick. So Mr. Rockefeller needed to get rid of Henry Ford and subdue the black population, all with one foul swoop. So they come up with lots of propaganda. Reefer Madness was one of them. It's a film, it's crazy. Have you had a joint? Oh, this young lady has smoked a joint. Next minute she's jumping out of the window. Or there's this fella going all crazy smoking a joint, and next minute he's eating a wine glass. I mean, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And that made it illegal. And that stopped the medicine being made from it because it was illegal. And that stopped Henry Ford's car from running on hempenol. And that started illnesses that we now have because a lot of our medicine literally comes from petroleum and chemical waste. And it didn't just stop there. When they made petrol from oil, refining petrol from oil, they ended up with this byproduct called plastic. And they used to just dump it out at sea. There was no rules or regs or nothing, you know, so another so many hundreds of thousands of tons of plastic every day is going out at sea and being dumped. And all of a sudden a judge ruled you can't do this, you've got to stop it. But this plastic was this lump, they didn't know what to do with it, and there was so much of it being produced, they just didn't know. So what Rockefeller did was pay a scientist so over many hundreds of thousands of dollars, which today will be millions, to come up with a solution. So this scientist come up with many different acids and painted them until we found an acid that would melt the plastic, and he poured it into a mould, created a pot, and presented that to Rockefeller. The first ever Bakelite pot was created. So what they do is they sell us the waste back to us, and that is now also why the world is being polluted, why the items that we buy are so very cheap and made of plastic, because they have to be, because there's so much oil being refined that they have to do something with it. And now even you can hear it in the news and magazines and newspapers that, I don't know, every month every human on the face of the planet consumes a credit card of plastic. And a lot of that's true, but I wouldn't say every human on the planet. This is where we don't think. Within seconds I went, what about Eskimo babies? Yeah? Every fucking human on the planet, fuck off. You've got to think freely. Ask an amazing question. Ask an amazing question. Don't worry about the answer. Worry about the question. Ask a question that's worth answering. You have to tap into a part of your mind that a lot of people don't, just it's conditioned not to. You know that margarine was about 2 molecules away from being plastic. And the latest tattoo inks, they don't spread anymore. That's because there's plastic in it. And the amount of bags that all the supermarkets produce, they're made of plastic. So we complain and we say, oh no, come on, there's too much plastic being produced. So they make them thicker and charge you a lot of money for it. Yeah? Best profit out of a bad situation. They even create the situation in order to profit from. Let me talk about recycling for a second. I don't know about you, but what I know recycling to be is to get a jar that you've used and to wash it out and take it back to the jam shop, shall we say, and I'm going to fill it up with jam for you again and give you your own jar back. So you use that jar over and over again, and you're not going back. They're not producing lots of jars, yes? So instead what they do is they give you a special bag, plastic, loads of bins, plastic, and tell you to go through your own filth, your own rubbish, and wash it, right? And give that back to them, which they then get to pour acids onto it and turn it back into products and sell it back to you again. So it's just a big scam, it's a big con. So the whole regime continues, you know? Oh, these bags are terrible, all right, make them thicker, charge them for the nose full. Let's recycle. Okay, what happens when you go there with a glass jar and say, can I just put some jam back in this jar again, please? Because that's recycling. You'll get attacked. You might even get sued. Remember? If the system don't like it, they just say it's illegal. They just dictate that it's illegal. Yes? Not against the law though, is it? Huh? just take the jab. You know, I was thinking about music, which I do quite often being a musician. And I discovered that music is magic and musician is a magician. And I was pondering upon the many ponderings that I ponder. And I suddenly realized that classical music is the only music, the only form of music that is free to get faster, slower, more loud, more quiet, suddenly stop and start again, and go on for so ever many, as long as it wants. You get classical pieces that go on for 30, 40 minutes. But all of the other music, boom, 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 boom. It's repetitive. It doesn't get quieter or louder or softer or faster or slower. It's dung, dung, dung. And I suddenly started pondering and thinking about the differences between said musics. And class came in practically straight away. The upper class, lower class, richer, poorer, whatever. The better learned, you know, and the useless eaters, right? That are under control, that are under a spell, and music is magic. The rich people listen to classical music, they don't seem to be under a bad spell, they seem to be under a good spell. And that music is very free. It can go and do what it wants because it's free and wonderful, based on nature. And I love music, don't get me wrong. I don't care, I love rap, drum and bass. I'm an original junglist, I love ragga. I'm born and made with reggae, so don't get me wrong, I ain't knocking no style of music. You'll find me listening to all sorts. But it's a fact. Only classical music has the freedom to cast such a wonderful spell on the listener as to be able to get quieter and louder, faster and slower, so on and so forth. I went, that's hypnosis. It might not be blink and you're asleep, and it might not be stare at my pocket watch swinging from left to right, but it's still a repetitive pattern that puts people under a spell. You listen to music and it has an effect upon you, therefore it's most definitely, because everything is magic, some sort of spell. But then I extended my thought process to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, repeat, Monday, Saturday and Sunday, and so on and so forth, and then the months and the years. But then I was like, and the music, dung, 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 dung. But then I looked out on society, you know? What was it the other day? Transformers 8, you know? Fast and the Furious 65. They just keep and if they're not remaking old films, they're making them darker. There's another scandal, nothing was done about it. There's another scandal, nothing was done about it. There's another scandal, nothing was done about it. And what's the effect that this magic has upon the people? Oh, that's just the way things go. Yes? Dumbed down, under a spell, just dummies that get angry at what I say. So I'm breaking them out of a reality that's not theirs and is handed to them by an evil construct. What happens when people go and complain and they protest? You've got 100,000 people marching. What do they do when they get there? 100,000 people marching on a city, and you can't make the difference you want to make. My God. And you're going to do it again and again and again and again and again. What's we do this time? Oh, we'll make a bigger banner. You fucking idiots. I told you, man. 100,000 people march on a city, you've citizens arrest. But you're not conditioned to. You could even say, oh, I'm going to learn to think out the box. That means you're admitting that there's a box in which to think out of. What about the universe? You know, small towns, small minds. Well, my mind's global and my thoughts are universal. I close my eyes, now I am the universe. Experiencing itself through its version called Oli. Therefore I am the universe. Experiencing itself through its version called Oli. Therefore I am the universe. And that goes on and on and on and on and on, forever, like the universe. See, this is free thinking, this is knowledge. This is power, empowering. And genuine freedom is tough and hard and scary, but also wonderful and glorious. It's very satisfying. And you know, sometimes I miss having a group of people to chill with, sometimes. But then I listen to people talk and within seconds I feel disgusted. And I know I can't reach them because on a small group of people you're going to get your head bitten off, ostracised and so on and so forth. So many times this is. So now I walk by, confident and happy in myself, knowing that they're not. And the ostracization is actually them shaming me, putting their shame on me, so they haven't got to admit their own sad existence and lack of resistance. So now I speak to the world. Now I express myself openly and utterly, and may the comments be an arena of a very righteous fight. And may sometimes I be upset and a bit passionate, and may angry and frustrated, and may other times I be full of beans and good spirits, how it should be. And may the wind continue to blow, and may this wind sock over the end of the phone never fail me. Haha. So far, guys, I've given you enough changes to make differences that took me about 18, maybe 20 years to learn and make, and through a hell of a lot of suffering to get there. And I know that a lot of you are going to understand what I'm saying and realise that what I'm saying is chucking points down for you to pick up. But check this, man. I chuck a dog a bone. What he does with it, what she does with it is up to her. I'm not going to sit there over and over again and, you know, I have things to say, I say them and I move on, and that's that. On another note, my computer turned up, my screen turned up, it wasn't broken. My samurai sword still hasn't turned up, but it is being made, hand beaten as we speak, so in about 4 or 5 days, hopefully it should be here. In fact, I believe it's probably made ready now, it's just been shipped over from Japan. So that's going to be interesting. Very happy for that. Going to be quite a poor month because I need to pay off the computer. And I will be ready to start uploading some of these episodes. I wonder, I'll probably get shadow banned and blocked in seconds, but oh well, we'll see. And guys, don't just like, subscribe and mention in the comments. Each one teach one, okay? Find other people. Find other people to hear my message. I would appreciate you doing that more than liking and subscribing. Yeah? And look at what you do. Look at it. Don't be full of shit. Don't be defensive. You've got fuck all to defend. Look at it. Look at what you're eating. Look at what you're buying. Then look around the supermarkets and the shops. I dare anyone not to watch TV, and I mean actual TV, for 3 months and then watch it again. You'll be completely horrified of how you used to sit there going like that and listen to those idiots talk to you like you're idiots. Yeah? Dumbing you down, making you childlike. And then before you know it, horrific events are happening and you feel that you're bad to defend yourself, or that you don't know what your freedom is and what to do with it. Lambs to the slaughter. That's terrible. Whenever there's a big dumbing down agenda happening, that's because something horrific is coming down the line. I don't want you to be able to defend yourself. Be thankful for everything. The bad times as well as the good times. Always be thankful. You know, the Rasta man them say give thanks and praise. I got born and raised with reggae. Genuine vibes, man. But I'll tell you this. It's easy to give thanks and praise when you're on a white sandy beach, blazing up ganja, eating great food and having some great sex. It's easy to give thanks and praise. You wait till you're facing horrors, real horrors. So bad you never thought those emotions existed. Then you find a reason somehow, through the dark and pain and terror, find a reason to give thanks and praise, because that's what that saying means. It's not when life's airy and great and grand, it's easy. But that's what it means always, give thanks and praise, always. So that's the message you put out to the universe. Yeah? And don't be afraid of your emotions. Don't suppress them. Everyone's there for a reason. And learn the difference between your pride and your shame. Get rid of your shame. You realise it's not even yours. Yeah? And when this happens, you start getting angry. And when this anger happens, you must be proud of it. And then that's the shame going. Yeah? Did Jesus not whip the backs of the bankers? He was proud, he didn't give a fuck. He cracked on. You try whipping the bankers back these days. You get SWAT team coming down on you. You get put on a psychiatric ward, wouldn't you? You know, you can search for God all you wish. The second you find him, you get nutted off. Anyway, I'm going to leave that at that. I've got some more foraging to do and a lot more work on the studio and these channels to do. So, guys, as always, a lot of love.